Warehouse and operations as a career, and I'm Marty T. Hawkins. I think this is the first episode that we don't already have a title picked out as we're starting to record it. I usually work off of at least some bullet points or some kind of article to talk to. It's storming really bad here in Dallas, Texas. I hope the episode sounds all right for you today. Well, let's pick a topic. Let's see. I worked a lot on accident investigations all week, so I guess we can kind of start there, see how it goes. Accident investigations seem to really stress us out as employees. I see kind of how it can seem more like an interrogation sometimes, but actually, accident investigations are designed to help our companies, our industry, and us as employees. I do quite a bit of incident or accident investigations. I learned something from each one of them, really. When they're completed properly, we hope to be able to avoid the same thing from happening again. I really hope if we're in a management role, we've been trained to gather all the information for our company officials, healthcare providers, and legal teams so that they can protect our employees. I really feel our industry does a great job learning from these incidents and kind of creating processes and procedures or maybe rules to help identify and prevent them from happening again. When our supervisors really take the time to find the who, what, where, when, and how through their investigations, it makes it really safer for all of us. Sometimes I see a lot of associates try and be a little less than forthcoming with answers. Ladies and gentlemen, all we got to do is be honest. The investigation will produce the truth. These days, 9 out of 10 times, there's going to be a video recording of the incident, or a witness is going to describe what happened probably better than we will. I'm sure, or I hope anyway, that we were all told when we started or when we were hired that it is so important to report any accident or incident immediately to our supervisors. Just today, I know of a gentleman that his supervisor had to let him go. Not for bending the rack while placing a pallet up in the reserves, but because another employee mentioned it before he did. In his defense, I'm not certain that he was even aware that he'd bent it, but he would have had to have known, I think, that he touched it or hit it. I think it was probably his defensive voice or tone when being questioned during the investigation that really cost him his job. Let's take equipment operators, for example. We're trained to be aware of our surroundings, how to properly operate the equipment and all the safety rules that kind of govern those operations. The rules that are in place today are the result of years' worth of incident investigations. An incident or accident probably occurred, and we as an industry learned from it, created a rule or procedure to prevent it from happening again. That's truly what accident investigations are. They're to help us be safer and work in a safer environment. I was working on one case. A gentleman had reached over his head to scoot a pallet off of a stack of 12 and lost control of it, and it landed on his little toe. Now, 3 things were discovered during the investigation. First, his supervisor had not noticed that his shoes only looked like steel-toe boots, while in fact they were not. It was determined going forward that the supervisor would be verbally checking with his crew each day at the startup meeting to ensure that they had on their proper PPEs. Secondly, it was determined that pallets would only be stacked 10 high going forward, as 12 required most employees to stretch way over their head to scoot the pallet towards them. And lastly, it was communicated that all associates should be wearing gloves when working with pallets. These procedures were put in place because of an investigation and should help prevent someone else getting injured in the very same way. This guy actually ended up losing 7 days of work. The investigation kind of stressed him out. Naturally, he felt like the finger was being pointed at him, and that's kind of the human nature in all of us. After it was completed, he felt much better about it and was fine with it. Oh, I think you'll enjoy this one, and thank goodness that no one was seriously injured. A gentleman was unloading trucks, lining up the pallets in front of the doors, kind of making lanes out of them for the receiver to, get them tagged and the pallet runner to haul them off. He was standing in between two pallets and using his cell phone, I believe it was the calculator app on his phone, to do some kind of counting on pallets, I guess. Well, the pallet runner came to run up underneath the pallet, kind of scooting it into the unloader. Luckily, he didn't get smashed between the loads, and it could have been a pretty serious accident. Through the investigation, it was discovered that there was already 2 rules in place that would have prevented this incident. First, no unloader is to, be between the pallets or even in the lanes once it has been dropped off for staging. This rule, he just ignored. And secondly, cell phones were not permitted in this particular facility or in the warehouse in any way due to them being such a distraction. In this case, they disciplined the employee, and now at the startup meetings each morning, everyone is reminded to put away their cell phones. Oh, and this is a good comment to add. The company purchased like 20 little pocket calculators, but only 2 people really wanted to carry them. Kind of makes the using my cell phone as a calculator a mute issue, doesn't it? As a supervisor, it's pretty tough to drill down to the root causes of accidents. It's not always going to stare us in the face. I've always found it best to work backwards, talk to everyone that not only saw something, but to those that heard anything. I think it's important to even speak to people that had seen an individual, a few minutes before something's happened. A lot of times we can learn that the individual might have had something else on his or her mind before the accident. And always check out the equipment's history, a very important part of an investigation. The pre-trip and its recent maintenance records or schedule can tell us volumes about the unit. Here's a real quick one. A gentleman grabbed a pallet jack, drove to the end of the building, made the turn towards his dock door, and found that the jack didn't plug properly. Remember, plugging is when you reverse the acceleration to slow and actually stop the jack. Thankfully, he had plenty of room and it slowed down enough to let go of the handle, and the jack just touched the stack of pallets before coming to a complete stop. Think of what could have happened if the operator hadn't had the peace of mind to let go of the handle or had been running the equipment wide open. This could have been a bad accident. Anyway, so during the investigation, it was discovered the previous shift had experienced a little trouble themselves with the jack and had written it on their post-shift report and even filled out a work order on it. 2 things were determined from the investigation. The previous shift employee did not place the equipment inside the maintenance gate. He had, from, habit of course, just went ahead and plugged it up to its charger. With everything appearing normal, the next shift employee grabbed it and failed to do his pre-trip on it before he signed it out. Now, going forward, it's been determined that all employees will take their pre- and post-trip equipment reports to their supervisor so he or she can follow up on them. I think it's really important that we don't stress over investigations, ladies and gentlemen. If we're doing our jobs properly and as we've been trained, all the accidents or incident investigation is going to do is make our job safer for us and our teams and reduce loss to our companies. It's just important to be open, honest, and helpful. It'll only pay off for us. Well, I've enjoyed talking a little about accident investigations today, and I hope I mentioned something that made you think about them, maybe in a more positive light. If you have a thought or a topic that you'd like to know a little more about, I'd enjoy learning about it myself, sharing a little about it, and bringing a subject knowledge expert on the show to explain it to all of us if I need to. I'd appreciate it if you would like and follow us on our Facebook and Twitter too, using that little @ WHSEANDOPS. We're having some great discussions on those feeds each week. Until next week, be safe, not only at work but at home as well. We've got loved ones counting on us to put our safety training to practice.